3 in the morning, wide awake, heart racing, mind spinning. It happens on the same nights, and it is happening to millions of people, right now, in the dark, thinking they are alone. You have probably been told this is insomnia, or that you are just stressed, or that you should try to breathe, drink some water, count backwards from 100. But here is what is really happening. It is not insomnia. It is not stress. It is a specific hormone spike your body is making at that exact hour, and there is a reason. Today, I am going to show you why you wake up at 3 in the morning every night, and it is not what you think. Let's start with what is actually happening inside your body between 2 and 4 in the morning. For most people, the wrong story goes something like this. I must be stressed. I must be a bad sleeper. Maybe I had too much coffee. Maybe it is the room temperature. Maybe I need melatonin. And each of those explanations almost fits. But none of them explain the strangest part, which is why this same hour. Not 1 in the morning. Not 5 in the morning. 3. On the same kind of nights. In the same kind of weeks. If it were random stress or a bad mattress, it would be random. But it is not random. There is a clock underneath this. A very old, very reliable clock. And it is running on a schedule you never chose. Once you see that clock, everything about the 3 in the morning wake-up starts to make sense. The clock is called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. You do not have to remember that name. What you do need to know is this: your body has an internal sunrise. Every night, while you are sleeping, a hormone called cortisol is quietly rising in the background. Not because you are stressed, not because something is wrong, because your body has a job to do in the morning, and it needs to warm up the engine before you open your eyes. Think of cortisol as the sunrise inside your body. Slow, gradual, timed. In a well-regulated system, that sunrise begins low, builds slowly through the last hours of the night, and peaks about 30 to 40 minutes after you actually wake up. That gentle rise is what makes you feel like you can get out of bed. It is what clears the fog. It is what pulls you into the day. But here is the piece almost nobody explains. Sunrise does not start at 7 in the morning when your alarm goes off. It starts hours earlier. It starts, in most people, between 2 and 3 in the morning. Now here is where the picture gets clearer. At 3 in the morning, your body is not asleep the way it was at 11 the night before. It is in a very different part of the night. Sleep is not one flat state. It moves in cycles, roughly 90 minutes each. In the first third of the night, you spend most of your time in deep, slow-wave sleep. This is the heavy sleep. Almost nothing wakes you here. But as the night goes on, that deep sleep thins out. You spend more and more of your time in lighter sleep and in dreaming sleep, what scientists call REM sleep. By the last third of the night, REM dominates. And in REM, the threshold for waking up is much, much lower than it is in deep sleep. So layer the cortisol sunrise on top of that. Your cortisol is beginning its climb. Your sleep is already lighter. And that gentle hormonal rise is happening at the exact hour your body is most easily nudged awake. In a calm, well-regulated nervous system, the two are timed so that you sleep through the rise and wake around your usual hour, feeling clear. But if your baseline cortisol is already elevated, because of chronic stress or an anxious week or unfinished worry your body is still carrying, the sunrise starts stronger. It climbs faster, and it crosses the line into full wakefulness hours before it was supposed to. That is the 3 in the morning wake-up. It is not weakness. It is not a broken sleep switch. It is a hormone doing exactly what it was designed to do, on a schedule that has been pulled forward by a nervous system running too hot. Researchers at the University of Trier and elsewhere have documented this pre-dawn cortisol rise for decades. It is not a theory. It is your body's own alarm, going off early because the system that regulates it has been left switched on too long. This is where modern life becomes the story, because none of what your nervous system is doing is new. What is new is the amount of low-grade activation it is carrying by the time you go to bed. You are checking one more email at 10:30 at night. You are scrolling in bed with a bright screen inches from your face. Your morning starts with a phone in your hand before daylight ever hits your eyes. Your body is not getting the two signals it depends on to keep the cortisol curve on time: bright light in the morning and dim light in the evening. On top of that, most people never really finish their day. There is no closing of the loop. The work worry blends into the phone worry, which blends into the pillow. Your body cannot tell the difference between a real threat and a mental one. The stress system does not know that the email you are replaying is not a bear, so it stays up. And when the natural pre-dawn rise begins, it starts from a higher floor. 3 in the morning is not the problem. 3 in the morning is the receipt. This is education, not medical advice. If your sleep has been broken for a long time, or something feels seriously wrong that you cannot shake, talk to a doctor or a therapist. This video is meant to help you understand what your body is doing so that the small things you try actually work. So, what can you actually do? Not 7 things, 2, maybe 3 that meet the mechanism where it is. The first, the one that most consistently changes things for people, has to do with the morning. Waking up at roughly the same time every day and getting real daylight into your eyes within the first hour, ideally by stepping outside, tends to reset the whole curve. This has nothing to do with willpower and everything to do with the cortisol sunrise. Morning light hitting your eyes tells the master clock in your brain what time it actually is, and that master clock is what tells cortisol when to rise and when to fall. When the morning end of the curve is stable, the pre-dawn rise tends to line up where it belongs, closer to your wake-up time, not 2 hours before it. The second is what to do in the moment. If you wake up at 3 in the morning, one thing many people find helpful is to not check the clock and not reach for the phone. Both of those spike cortisol further, and the light kills the melatonin you still have on board. Instead, slow your exhale. Not a deep breath in, a long, slow breath out. Breathe in for a normal count and let the breath out for about twice as long. Some people know this as 4-7-8 breathing, but you do not need a formula. What you need is the exhale to be longer than the inhale. When you do that, you tap the vagus nerve, the long nerve that runs from your brainstem down through your body, and it flips a switch from the alert branch of your nervous system to the calming branch. It does not make the cortisol vanish, but it lowers the volume on the alertness signal enough that many people fall back asleep before they finish counting. The third, if you want a third, has to do with the evening. Your body's cortisol curve needs to fall before it can rise cleanly again. In the last 2 hours before sleep, dimming the lights in your home and stepping away from bright screens, or at least dimming them all the way down, gives your body one honest signal that the day is ending. This is not about being perfect. It is about the sunset arriving before the sunrise, the way it was always supposed to. Here is the meta frame you came for. You are not broken. You are not a bad sleeper. Your body is doing exactly what it was designed to do, on a schedule that was set long before phones and email and modern work. The 3 in the morning wake up is not a malfunction. It is a very old system running perfectly in a world it was never designed for. The work is not to fight the sunrise. The work is to move it back to where it belongs. If you have noticed any of this, the wide-awake hour, the racing heart, the mind that will not stop at 3, tell me in the comments which piece of this hit closest. If it helped, a like helps YouTube show this to someone else who has been searching for a real explanation, instead of another. Just count sheep. Next time, I am going to walk through what actually happens in the body during a panic attack, and why the standard advice makes it worse. Subscribe so it lands in your feed. Thanks for watching.